Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2026 WWE Elimination Chamber Instant Analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, just minutes after WWE Elimination Chamber went off the air to break down everything that happened on WWE's final premium live event on the road to WrestleMania 42. Vintage Chris Vanini will be along momentarily, and we have plenty to discuss. So, off the top, allow the Silver King to remind you here at Getting Over.
It's all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Vintage and Getting Over. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you can vote in pre and post show polls surrounding every premium live event and pay-per-view. Those grades that you submitted on Saturday night will factor into our final segment as we give a final grade for WWE Elimination Chamber. With that said, it is time to welcome Vintage Chris Vanini to the show, as we always do here on the Instant Analysis Podcast. It has been a little time since we've done it the right way. It is time to crack open a cold one. The Silver King tonight has a 6-point bone chiller, beer I've never had before, but one of my favorite breweries. I want to say it's in Brooklyn, New York. Vintage, what do you got over there?
I've got a sour True Love from Martin House Brewing in Fort Worth, Texas.
Interesting. This is not what I expected. It's a winter type of beer, and I'm drinking it in end of February here into March. But that is really not what we're here to discuss, although it is, of course, nice to crack open a cold one when we have these instant analysis so late at night coming after WWE premium live events. We are here to break down every single thing that happened on Elimination Chamber. And in order for us to do that, we're also going to need to wade into some things that happened Friday night on SmackDown, the go-home show for Elimination Chamber. So we have an absolute ton to get to. And you know what? We're not going to waste any time doing it. We usually pontificate here at the start of the show about Elimination Chamber as a whole, and we kind of save our grade and give that to you at the end. We're not even going to do that. Let's get to the WWE Elimination Chamber instant analysis. The two brief things I will say overall about the premium live event: real nice touch having CM Punk do an introductory package himself rather than jamming some like random Chicago celebrity into the show. And we not only got pyro to kick off Elimination Chamber, but we got the bonus fire as the chamber structure lowered both for the women's match and the men's match. That always makes it feel bigger. I love when they do it for War Games. Doing that for Chamber as well was cool. Vintage, Did you have any perspective on the show as a whole from a visual aesthetic standpoint?
I noticed in that intro, they said the first time in 32 years, a WWE televised event at the United Center. And I just wondered, because, we did the math on that in our Ultimate Preview about how long that had been. But that was interesting. That that added pyro was nice. And something I've forgotten to say for weeks now, but they're regularly using the narrow entranceway now, and I like it. It makes everything feel a little bit bigger. Everybody's a bit closer, and I've enjoyed that change that continued tonight.
I never liked those really long diagonal posts. I always thought it just looked weird, so I completely agree. Visually, it looked a lot better. And yes, it was 32 years between televised shows at the United Center. And if I had to guess, that's probably a record for WWE, but it was SummerSlam 1994, and they've only done a couple other shows between then and now, and they were just house shows. I think we said this on the Ultimate Preview. TNA and WCW ran shows in AEW as well at the United Center, televised between the two WWE programs, SummerSlam 94 and Elimination Chamber 2026. So let's kick off this instant analysis where, of course, we're going to break down every single match on the show. We're going to give you our perspectives on them, grades, and, of course, thoughts about what's going to happen moving forward in WWE on the road to WrestleMania. Let's kick off this instant analysis with the Men's Elimination Chamber main event. Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and as scheduled ahead of SmackDown, Jey Uso. This was a WWE Championship #1 contendership match. And a ton went down on SmackDown, so much so that we actually have to discuss all of it before we get into the match breakdown itself. But I do want to say off the top of the show that Randy Orton emerged from the Elimination Chamber, which is not something, Vintage, that either you or I had on our radar as a possibility coming out of this match.
Yeah, it was a long, convoluted way of getting there, which we'll get into, but I didn't see that coming. It opens up a lot of things that happened after the show, but also like Jey Uso there. What are you doing, Jay? You're a Raw superstar. What are you doing on SmackDown?
Fair enough. Well,
if he hadn't showed up to the wrong show, he would have been in the chamber.
That's true, but they were doing the in the ring, everyone could have promo segment as scheduled to promote it, so that's why he was there. And that is why we need to start with this breakdown for this match, because like I said, an absolute ton happened on SmackDown, basically to get Jey Uso out of this match and insert someone else in it, while also building story for what would happen in the Elimination Chamber and what we expect to happen coming out of it on the road to WrestleMania. So SmackDown opened with Jey having been attacked backstage, face down on the concrete, pieces of wood over his body. Jacob Fatu jumped into an ambulance with him screaming to figure out who attacked his cousin, and tons of people were freaking out. I couldn't help but laugh as I thought about Jey laying in the gurney, doing the encore run it back hand motion while laid up. Like, it just would have been outstanding and maybe the wrestling moment of the year. Drew McIntyre then entered through the crowd, mocking Jey for getting taken out, but clarifying that he was not at fault. Again, he's no liar. As McIntyre was continuing to brag and put himself over, Nick Aldis came out, demanding he go to his office, not only to handle business, but to protect him from everyone who wanted his head. Rhodes interrupted, demanding to fight right away. Drew jumped into the crowd, saying it didn't benefit him to fight in any way whatsoever on the show. That's true. So Cody called him a coward, saying he's been acting like a, quote, little bitch his entire reign. Then Orton came out, the gimmick to the segment being that each person could only get 30 seconds into their promo before being interrupted by the next person. Williams, who had been arguing backstage with Evans during the cold open, he said he got a shout out from Bruno Mars on his new album. I'll have to confirm that. Javon smacked Trick upside his head, which was really funny. He came to the ring and said he wanted to beat Randy's record as youngest world champion. Knight talked his normal trash, trying but failing to do something with Trick's white coat. Ellie always flubs something. It's just so funny. Those two wound up.
I don't know if that was a flub. I thought that all worked.
He couldn't get the coat on his body and he threw it to his side.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to wear it. He wasn't going to wear the whole thing.
I thought he was going to wear it to the ring. But those two wound up brawling to the back. Orton caught Evans with an RKO, and then Randy and Cody briefly faced off but did not touch to end the segment. This was as hot a TV open as you are going to get, considering all 6 guys involved in the segment were over like Rover. McIntyre, again for the second straight week, truly felt like the WWE champion. He was carrying the title, not the other way around. The crowd reacted to him incredibly well. And as I said earlier in the week, I'm starting to steadfastly believe that he should retain that title at WrestleMania. The segment was nothing that we haven't seen before, but instead of a promo parade, it was a promo sprint. That was unique. The energy was a 10 out of 10. Seeing everyone in the ring spitting at each other was fun. And most importantly, as it pertains to the Jey attack in the cold open, Chris, I believe I had that.
Congratulations to me.
It's exactly what WWE needed to do. He was not supposed to be in the match, so they needed to create an opening for a replacement. My assumption live at the moment was another Vision guy would get the spot.
Yes, I like obviously there were so many faces in it. You needed some more heels in the match. Bronson got injured on Raw during the match. You got to finish that out and make it up from there. So obviously what we said, terrible injury for Bronson Reed, but ultimately not a surprise and a good call by you.
Did you find the opener to be as energetic and exciting as I did, I guess, is the question I have.
Yeah, I mean, the SmackDown main event scene has been hot for weeks. I mean, it's got so many big names involved for one, but even the chamber qualifiers were really good, and all the way up to the go home. Like this story's been very good.
So Aldis backstage told McIntyre to go home and await his opponent. Drew responded that there are a couple Europeans who really need to get on the same page. The remainder of the Vision showed up with Paul Heyman blaming Aldis for Jay's injury, suggesting Logan Paul take his place in the chamber. Logan guaranteed he would win if given the chance because he's the most important person in the entire company. He actually did a funny bit, flexing his bicep, telling Aldis he gave him consent to kiss it. Aldis insinuated the attack was perpetrated by the Vision, but said he would at least, consider all of his options. Heyman made Logan guarantee that he would win, then told Austin Theory to watch his temper. Fatu returned, blaming McIntyre without any proof, demanding he be put in the chamber so he can solve the problem for all of them at WrestleMania. Aldis again promised to consider the pitch. He later told the Vision that he spoke with Adam Pearce, and they agreed to book Logan against Jacob for the final qualifying spot. Heyman lost his shit, but Paul was steadfast. He was really confident he would get the job done. I was going to make a joke about Jacob getting back from the hospital super fast, but I decided to Google it. It was less than 1 mile from the venue. So 45 minutes to make sure his cousin is okay, taking an Uber back, 100% realistic. All 3 segments worked. Both options, Jacob and Logan, were legitimate. I also liked how Logan did not act like a coward as most heels would in that situation. It was a really strong setup overall. My presumption when this ended was that McIntyre would cost Fatu, especially because he already has that prior relationship with Logan, so he has no reason to cost Paul the opportunity.
I had the same thought as well.
So Cody wished Jacob good luck before the match, then shook hands with Sami Zayn, who asked Fatu how Jay was doing. Zayn said he didn't do it, but questioned whether Fatu was responsible, considering he was there immediately after it happened, and now he's trying to take Jay's spot in the match. Jacob threatened Sami to be careful with whatever he said next, and when Zayn said McIntyre screwed him in the chamber qualifier, Fatu completely snapped at him, reminding that he and Cody were the ones who got Claymored, not Sami, suggesting perhaps he was responsible for Jay. So Zayn apologized in a similar fashion to how he did last week, clearly in his own head about the situation, again flipping over a table when it was over. To what you've said before, Chris, it did feel after this segment like they were trying to shoehorn Sami into the WWE Championship match. But as I explained last week, and as Jacob pointed out here, Sami has zero case to be part of WrestleMania at all, let alone for the WWE title. He lost to McIntyre clean, didn't even qualify when he got help from him. He hasn't been wronged. I've said it before, the right booking is for Zayn to completely miss the show, turn heel on the back end. It's going to be incredibly frustrating if he is added to the match, even if these segments continue to be quality on SmackDown, which they were. This one definitely hit again. They leaned back into the conspiracy theorist role that he had with a small alteration, and I thought it was a really nice build for the main event with Jacob, Cody, and Sami not exactly knowing where all of them stood.
This was really good. I also liked the theory that you had, too, that Fatu brought it up, saying, maybe you're the one who did all this, Sami. And in a possible heel turn, like it could fit. Like we don't actually know who hit Fatu or Jay or any of this stuff. And seeds, I won't say planted because Jacob said it straight up, but that has now been floated out there as well. It's a possibility.
It fits so well together. Sami being the attacker for both of them. We'll find out whether that actually happens. So Fatu and Paul, that was the main event for the open qualifier spot. Theory attacked Fatu extensively during the break. The referee was distracted. Logan missed a frog splash before taking a handspring moonsault. Then he got knees up on a swanton bomb, following with a blockbuster off the ropes and a springboard moonsault where he somehow overshot Jacob, despite the dude being 2/3 of the way down the ring. You got to give him credit for the athleticism there. Fatu flipped out of the pulverizer, taking out Logan and Theory before getting hands on Heyman. Logan low-blow Jacob literally behind the referee, landing a haymaker and a frog splash for a 2.9 false finish. I legitimately thought that was the end of the match. The masked man ran in for a super kick on Theory, only to take a haymaker from Logan, who unmasked him as a completely random dude who got escorted away from the ring by security. Jacob avoided another haymaker, hitting a pop-up Samoan drop, but McIntyre smashed him in the head with a belt shot as he attempted the mighty moonsault, and Logan finally got the 1-2-3 to advance. When you consider that Logan didn't spend weeks preparing for this match like many of his other standout performances, you could argue this was the best in-ring work of his entire career. He and Jacob were excellent foils in the ring. Logan's ability to wrestle TV matches, as well as some other, at least, WWE superstars, it really should not be overlooked. Clearly, I loved the match. The masked man fake out was great too. Smart to do a red herring as a guy who was co-opting the mask rather than the same person who's been interfering all this time. You can't be running that storyline and then not have someone make that kind of effort in a spot like this. And I figured it would give Logan a false sense of security in the chamber match. Plus, McIntyre taking out Fatu the way he did it absolutely had to be the way the match finished. This was an A- match for me. To my utter surprise, I loved pretty much everything about it.
Logan's getting quite good at this. And he had a very funny back and forth with Kevin Owens on the WWE 2K ratings reveal. There's a videos up on YouTube that I watched it. And the two of them back and forth were hilarious. And again, Logan Paul just continues to get better and better. Thrown into a main event on SmackDown, does a really good job. Jacob Fatu was great as well. The masked mystery person reveal, I didn't take that as somebody's cosplaying or whatever. I didn't know what it was. I found it, I love that we didn't know what it was, and I didn't know who it was. And it, even though it was unmasked, there was still the mystery of what exactly it was. And commentary really sold it that we don't know who this guy is. And I don't know if people found out who he really is, but it was intriguing and a good finish.
Just so everyone knows, he was a member of Seth Rollins' Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, one of his students.
That was
in Iowa.
That was going to be my thought after Saturday night.
So that's what happened there. But no, I was really into this match. What you said about Logan was true on Friday, perhaps not as true on Saturday, which allows us to transition into the actual Elimination Chamber match. Finally, let's break this down, the main event of Elimination Chamber. Williams entered first, which was the right move. He got a rotating stage entrance looking like $1 million, immediately climbed atop a pod just for the aura. Evans obviously had a high energy entrance as well, yelling into the camera that he was nervous while being so excited. Javon and Cody started with FU Logan chants ringing out. There was also light boos a couple times when Rhodes had solid offense. Trick exited first, catching an OG cutter cold and hitting a trick slap. Then he did a double bookend that Michael Cole called a choke slam. Come on, Cole. When Logan stepped out of his pod, the other three ganged up on him, driving him into and through the plexiglass. Paul hit the buckshot lariat on Rhodes before Knight entered, leaving Orton for last. Logan climbed a pod with Javon and LA, joining him for a tandem toss-off, just a flying crossbody basically into two other guys. Evans ate a BFT atop the pod before Orton did a run of power slams and draping DDTs. Javon then flew off the top with a massive frog splash onto Trick, immediately when standing, taking a pulverizer to get eliminated first. Logan rushed this, and Javon nearly got dropped on his head because of it. Should have taken a beat, paused, made sure he had him in spot, but he didn't. Knight caught Rhodes with a burning hammer for a really weird delayed count. Then he slipped and fell doing his jump up elbow drop. There's always one botch in every match for LA Knight. He caught Williams with BFT but was unable to cover, instead taking a low blow from Logan for a second sudden catch from behind elimination. Logan avoided Trick shot and Trick avoided pulverizer, but Williams got caught with Crossroads coming back, only for Paul, stupidly, to throw Rhodes off the cover so he could get the 1-2-3 and the elimination. While the door was open, a masked man climbed the side of the structure, only to get caught by security. He was unmasked, and it was another random dude who got dragged to the back. That paved the way for the security to be away from the structure, and it gave entry to another masked man. He cleanly walked into the chamber, hit the stomp on Logan. Cody covered, got the elimination. The masked man pulled off the hood and the mask, revealing himself as Seth Rollins. Rollins' reveal was the biggest pop of the entire match by far to that point. Cole tried to call this the surprise of the century, which it was not.
Yeah,
that left.
we don't need to force in of the century for everything.
We really do not. That left Cody and Randy there, but McIntyre ran into the open door, drilled Rhodes from behind with the WWE title. Cody then avoided a Claymore, but still got beaten down in the corner. Orton caught McIntyre with an RKO. Rhodes added Crossroads, and it looked like the friends were going to square off, except Randy caught Cody blind when he was standing with an RKO to emerge as the surprise victor out of the chamber. Well, I may have had what happened on SmackDown. I did not have what happened at Elimination Chamber. Hell, I'm not sure anyone had that. And I certainly did not expect this match to go the way it did, even beyond Orton winning. Let's cover this in order, okay? Javon did not do nearly enough before he got eliminated. I don't mind him going down early. I don't mind Logan catching him blind with his finisher. The guy hit one for him, pretty basic frog splash, as the most athletic dude in the entire match. Where were the major spots? That was so disappointing. Logan got his eliminations by being in the right place at the right time, but it was absurd for him to get 3 of them, and absolutely ridiculous that he took out the 3 specific guys that he did. Trick should have eliminated Javon if they wanted Logan to get the other two. This match was careening off a cliff at this point. What they did was keep the same booking planned for Bronson Reed rather than redo the match. Reed would have eliminated all three of those guys and looked like an absolute monster, and it would have been great. It's sensible for Reed to run through all three of those dudes. It is not sensible for Logan to do so, even the way they booked it, which was decent, but not entertaining for the people watching.
And here's the other thing. It doesn't matter how many eliminations you have. Like, this isn't a Rumble where you have an impressive number.
Right.
Like, Logan throwing Cody into the post so he can get the pin doesn't mean anything. You don't get extra points for extra pins. Just let Cody pin him. Like, if we're talking about the logic of it all. So, yes, it very much was. It was clear that Bronson was going to get a bunch of pins, which would have helped him because he's a big, monstrous guy. And it doesn't add anything for Logan, especially when one of them is just stealing a pin from somebody else.
Asuka literally did that in the women's match. She let someone else get the fall because she knew either way it was beneficial because the numbers were smaller. But at this point, I legitimately believed they were going to have Cody win, and this was going to be a massive wet fart. Instead, the fake-out masked man followed by the Rollins reveal completely turned the crowd on its head. And the final sequence transpired in an entirely unexpected manner. Not McIntyre coming out and interfering. We predicted that, as did many others. But Orton taking full advantage of the situation and actually winning the match, especially with only one RKO against the guy in Rhodes who kicks out of every finisher 2 or 3 times. Immediately threw a wrench in our expectations, totally turned the tide on the match and the conclusion of the show. And it was a nice touch having Rollins use his students as the masked man getting his back. I hope they actually say that on TV. Now, let me be clear. None of this means I suddenly loved the match. I did not. But I did love the final 5 minutes, even if it presents a ton of questions that we are going to need to discuss coming up momentarily. I went 3.25 stars B. I could see going in either direction, up or down by a 1/4 star after rewatching it. The finish, though, was an A+. Loved the Rollins pop, despite it being a predictable reveal. Orton winning was unexpected and welcome as a surprise. But it was not all that happened Saturday night involving the WWE title. And we will come back to that, Chris, after we get your take on this match.
Do you think it would have been more impactful if we didn't have the masked man reveal on Friday? Like, if we have the first person come out and then they do like, we finally unmasked him, but we don't, who is this person? We don't know. And then another masked person slides in and Seth, do you think that would have helped at all? Or do you think doing it Friday helped Saturday?
I'll say this. I don't believe the finish Saturday was impacted either way by giving that away on Friday. On Friday, it at least put in our heads, oh, wow, we really don't know who this masked man is going to be. It could be anyone. And then we got another one of those teases. What they could have done, Chris, is they could have done 2 fake outs on Saturday and then the Rollins reveal, maybe. But I kind of like the way they did it because what happened on Friday, it created a means of distraction that allowed McIntyre to interfere also. And then it all worked together so well the way it happened.
So you feel like you have this notion that coming off of Friday, we knew there were multiple masked men. And I don't think that was made clear.
Okay.
Like, we know random people are doing the mask. No, like, for all we know, that could have been the one and only guy. Like, we didn't know by that point. And it wasn't until Saturday when a second unknown guy it was. So maybe as I'm saying it, it actually was better the way they did.
I think it's a fair point that you're making, or a fair question that you're asking, I should say. At the end of the day, though, I just think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think it would matter that much.
I will say, when masked Seth came in, you knew 100% it was him because he has very narrow shoulders. It was very clear to see with the sweatshirt he was wearing.
The eyes also. His eyes really do stand out.
I didn't notice the eyes. I just noticed the shoulders. I know those Seth Rollins shoulders. So that's what it was. Good for him to be back. It was less of a not shock, but less of a woe to me, because it's not like Seth has really gone away, because yes, he hasn't been on WWE TV, but he's been doing the interview circuit for months. Mm-hmm. He's promoting Unreal. He's talking about the Bears. He's this and that. So it never really felt like he was gone. And look, he did the return at SummerSlam. You can't make every return a big return. But I was like, this is the guy I saw the other day talking about the Chicago Bears moving, So it's just like, there's Seth. But whatever that is. On the match itself, it goes back to what I always say, which is it's really hard to do a good Elimination Chamber match. It's just not a naturally built thing where there's enough drama, where there's enough ability to do like spots you haven't seen, or like you kind of got to use the chamber, but there's only so many things you can do. And it's very slow and plodding as well.
You're telling me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're telling me Javon Evans couldn't have climbed to the side of that cage and done an OG cutter off of it? Like,
no, you can do more spots. I'm not saying they did the best match they possibly could have. I'm just saying if Javon Evans had done that, it wouldn't have dramatically changed the feelings of the match. It just would have been a spot that we remember.
You could also argue too.
There weren't any spots we remember.
You could also argue too, and I'm very sorry to interrupt you again, but he's 21 years old. It's his first Elimination Chamber. He might be in 10 of these matches. Are you going to give everything away the first time? Like, you could make that argument also.
Yeah, no. And my only other thought is on the structure of the match, the buzzer for who comes in.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It like they've always tried to recreate the Rumble countdown, and it never works because you get a buzzer and then it's just like a flashing light. I think I may have said this a year ago, but what they should do is the buzzer hits and then whoever it is, their music plays.
Yeah.
Like that's the cue.
A 10-second clip of their music or something. Yep.
And then LA Knight's music plays. And so people go, oh, all right, LA Knight's coming in. Like it's just buzzer and then light. And then everyone's like, yeah. Like it never works. And they've done this match forever. And it's always been a bit of a drag. And they still haven't figured out the best way to do it. That's my suggestion.
Overall, though, your perception of the match?
It was fine. It was okay. I liked the end of it. Like you said, there were no spots that were memorable. And that's what it was. To me, it was pretty much an average chamber match.
Yeah. The memorable part was the final 5 minutes. The rest of it was just to get to that is what it felt like.
Just like last year.
Yeah. Very similar. And now backstage at the start of the post show, and we are going to talk about all the potential machinations coming off of Orton winning this number one contendership, but backstage at the start of the post show, Aldis stormed toward McIntyre and got in a pull-apart screaming match with the WWE champion. Drew said he warned Nick and he told him exactly what he was going to be like when he won the WWE title. Aldis then jumped onto the post-show set, speaking to McIntyre through the camera, deciding that he would defend the WWE title against Rhodes on SmackDown this Friday. Paul Levesque later accepted and backed up Aldis' decision. And when Aldis was saying that, McIntyre actually confronted him at the post-show set. I kind of got that all mixed up together, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So they got into like a second pull-apart. Drew is furious about this. Nick stands by his decision, and Levesque is supporting him as well. Now, this creates 3 distinct possibilities. The first is Drew losing the title, setting up Cody and Randy, which is undoubtedly a huge WrestleMania match, with still nearly 50 days of build to get there as of Friday. By, I guess, next Friday, it would be 43 days of build. And it all started with the RKO here at Elimination Chamber. The other possibility is McIntyre getting disqualified or Fatu creating a non-finish, considering Aldis had told him, don't forget, that he would get a title match soon. So the two paths are Cody Randy, and then probably Jacob Drew, which again doesn't really make sense because McIntyre did not attack Fatu, or a 3-way or 4-way involving McIntyre, Orton, Rhodes, with Fatu as the question mark, which to me makes a lot more sense. It's similar booking to what we discussed on the Ultimate Preview, except instead of Cody earning his way in through Chamber, neither Cody nor Jacob did, necessitating both of them getting added the same way by Aldis because of McIntyre. Now, the third option is McIntyre, Rhodes, Orton. Zayn gets revealed as Fatu's attacker, and that leads to a separate singles match. So there's a lot of potential outcomes here, and frankly, while I've already been fully engaged in this storyline, I'm even hotter for it coming out of Chamber, considering all these possibilities. And whenever there's an unknown hanging out there, especially when there's 43 days until WrestleMania, which is plenty of time to develop the story, that's extremely intriguing. And that's the type of momentum you want going into the biggest show of the year.
Or other possibilities, you add Sammy into all of that, you get a 5-way, or you add Nick Aldis on top of that and get a 6-way.
So you're not going to put Aldis in the title match, but what you could do is Cody and Randy for the title, Jacob and Sammy in a grudge match because of the attack, and then McIntyre and Aldis one-on-one.
Yep.
Those are the 3 matches. If you booked all 3 of those, no one is complaining. Now, it would hurt me a little bit personally for McIntyre to drop the title so quickly, but I got to tell you, he won it in solid fashion. He's been a great champion since holding it. The only problem is he only has 1 defense, I think, against Sami Zayn, and it would have been nice to get him a second one.
And you had Aldis taking off his jacket like he wanted to fight.
Yeah.
And he has always looked the part as a guy who, if between him and Pierce, if anybody was going to get back in the ring, it's Nick Aldis, TNA legend known as Magnus. And like, it does feel like that's a possibility. It feels like Aldis has gotten to that point where it could be a possibility. It is weird, like you said, to take McIntyre out of it, but what % chance would you give that it is Randy Drew? I would say like 10%.
One-on-one?
Yeah.
5%.
What it is right now.
5%.
Yeah. It's not happening, which it makes it kind of weird for this to be the main event, like, of your final pay-per-view before WrestleMania. Now, I know you got 2 months to go, but it's gonna factor in a little bit to my grade of the show in the end.
More like 6 weeks, not 2 months, just to clarify. But still a lot of time.
7 weeks. They kept saying 7 weeks on the show, so almost 2 months. But so, like, it is weird to come out of this show not believing the main event that they have given to us. So I don't know.
What I like about it, though,
it's interesting though. But it is incredibly over and hot and exciting.
It is. Like
we've said, you got all the top names on SmackDown involved in this, and it's been good.
What I like about it, if they do go with the 4-way, okay, is Orton adds a lot of cachet to the match. Now, that's not saying that Cody, Jacob, and Drew on their own aren't a main event. They are. But if you throw Orton in there, you have him going after number 15. He's a massive star. He's always been the B side, but it's been extremely rare that he's actually gotten a WrestleMania main event if you go back and look at all the manias he's been involved in. So no matter which incarnation of the match winds up happening, Orton is a positive addition, is what I would say. So let me present to you the 3 options. Tell me which one you would want most, okay? McIntyre, Orton, and Rhodes. McIntyre, Orton, Rhodes, and Fatu. Or Rhodes and Orton, with then Fatu moving into something with Sami Zayn and McIntyre doing the thing with Aldis.
I think the 4-way, because they're all so connected to the title. I'm still surprised. Like, that's why we're so surprised with Randy, because he only got like involved in the Drew storyline like very, very late. It was
2 weeks ago.
We thought we thought it was going to be Cody, Fatu, Drew. That's where it was circling. Maybe Sammy somehow gets in, but we didn't know what you do with Orton. But Orton winning this does feel like it makes it more likely we're going to split them all up. Because then you have 6 guys.
It's also possible they just go off the reservation and do a 6-way. I mean, they could do...
That's what I'm saying, the sexy 6-way.
You're talking McIntyre, Rhodes, Orton, Fatu, Zayn, and Aleister Black would be the other one, because he's involved in the Orton feud.
No. Nick... No, well, I guess...
Aldis is not going to contend for the WWE title. He's not going to do that.
He should.
He's not going to do that.
When Aldis gets in the ring and takes his shirt off and everybody sees Magnus...
Well, that's the thing.
See,
Crap,
that was like a champion.
That's why the Cody, Randy, Jacob, Sammy, Drew, and Nick concept, it really does work. It's probably... Look, the 3-way or 4-way...
It doesn't work as a 6-way. It works as splitting up into 3 matches.
That's what I'm saying. Doing those 6... with the main event of night 1 being Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Then you have Jacob, Fatu, and Sammy, which is a really good match. Jacob is face, Sammy is heel. Then you have Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis. The way people are going to get up for Aldis, like you said, taking off his shirt or coming out as a wrestler. And because you have to remember, people like Aldis as the character, right? And he doesn't get physically involved in things. So you're talking about real heat that these guys have developed over months. That is a WrestleMania match. I know people are Silver King, you're such a huge fan of McIntyre. How would you be okay with that? It wouldn't be my preference. I want him to go in and come out as WWE champion. But you want to talk about a marquee match that people will talk about? McIntyre and Aldis is that, and Drew would win too. You want him winning at WrestleMania on top of everything else.
Yes.
And he'd have a case to go after, I mean, heaven forbid it'd be McIntyre or Cody again, but he'd have a case to still be in the main event and possibly, let's say, move over to Raw and go after that title instead. So there's a lot of things that you can do. But for me, Chris, I don't think going 3-way over 4-way makes sense. I think they would need to include Fatu in that. If they're not going to go multi-man, though, then I believe that Cody and Randy one-on-one, it's just a massive main event, and having 5 or 6 weeks to build is more than enough time to satiate everyone's appetite for that feud.
It is, of all the one-on-one options, Cody Randy is the most interesting.
Yeah.
They've got the long history together, second generation, all that kind of stuff. Good story you can tell. They're bigger stars. My only concern is they're both faces. And
Cody would get booed.
does that I was going to say,
yeah,
that probably increases the booing on Cody.
Yeah, not increases. He would be the heel in the match in terms of the Las Vegas crowd. He was the heel against heel John Cena last year.
Yeah. So surely they will be prepared for that. I mean, Cody knew he was going to get booed a year ago. So
they'd probably have Orton work the heel side, honestly, but it wouldn't work in front of that crowd.
I don't think it would either. So I'm very curious if that is what they do, where it would go. But of the options, I think the most likely is what we said. 3 different matches out of those 6 guys. That feels the most likely.
Yeah.
If it's multi-man, got to be a 4-way.
Well, I think the most likely main event is the 4-way. Let me be clear about that. McIntyre,
I disagree.
Rhodes,
So
Orton,
we
Fatu.
disagree on that. But yeah.
You think the most likely is Orton and Rhodes?
I do now. Yeah.
Do you think
thinking of the
McIntyre's
math
going to
of
get
it all.
ejected from it? Okay.
Yeah. Because if it's Cody, Randy, so you think Cody, Randy, Fatu, Drew? You think it's most likely?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe that is the most likely.
And then you can build up Cody and Randy on the back end of that. Because if you do that 4-way, you can have Orton win the title. And then you could run Orton and Rhodes at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We don't know where it's going to go. And it's been very good.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling.
And for us to be...
there's a bunch of options here that could work.
And for us to be talking this way about the SmackDown main event, just a couple months after we were shredding it to pieces, it really shows not just how smart it was to put the title on McIntyre, which we talked about forever, but how well of a job they've done, how good of a job, they've done, kind of rebooking that show and making it legitimately interesting on a week-to-week basis. The other topic before we move on to the women is the Rollins return and potential outcome of that. Look, Seth and Logan is presumably the direction if Braun Breaker is not cleared. That obviously does not make any logical sense because Logan was not even in the vision when Breaker and Reed turned on Rollins. Hell, Rollins taking out Logan in this match didn't really make sense unless the idea is that he's just getting back at Paul Heyman. At the same time, WWE just may not have any other options unless they're going to put Rollins into the CM Punk Roman Reigns match. Run back the triple threat from last year, and you do it as the Night 2 main event. That was a 5-star match with nothing on the line last year. Now you could potentially rematch it with the championship on the line this year. So those are the 3 options I see for Rollins, Logan, Breaker, and then getting inserted into Punk and Reigns. Clearly, Breaker is the best option. Inserting into Punk and Reigns for me would be second. If you run Seth and Logan on that show with no legitimate reason for Rollins to want to hurt Logan Paul, outside of because he's angry at Paul Heyman, again, they may have their hands tied. I understand. But that would be pretty rough.
Seth is always in this really awkward spot where you never quite know where he fits on WrestleMania.
He was supposed to this year, though. They had it set.
Right.
It was ready to go.
Yeah. Yep.
Twice.
They had it set and he got hurt.
2 different times.
Changed it.
Yeah.
And here's the problem with doing a Seth Logan. Because you want to know what happened at WrestleMania 39? Seth versus Logan. So,
right.
We can't really do that again.
Right. Forgot.
I had forgotten that happened.
Too.
I feel like these guys wrestled. I Googled it. They
forgot.
fought at WrestleMania 39.
You're right.
And and Rollins won. So Seth getting hurt, everybody in the Vision getting hurt, it just kind of makes a mess. We'll just pray that Braun Breaker is good enough in 7 weeks to be able to wrestle. We can maybe close that book. I do not want Seth back in the Punk Roman feud. Like, it was fine last year. It was a bit convoluted. We got to the triple threat. I thought Rollins Roman would have been more interesting one-on-one, but the Punk favor of it all, you had to throw that in there. Okay. Punk Roman is way more interesting. We saw that promo they cut on each other, a month ago. That is the heat. That is the energy and excitement.
Yeah.
Triple threat main event makes it very tough. Do not put him back into that main event.
Yeah. And Punk went off on Reigns on the post show also. I didn't really hear what he said because I was watching my Florida Gators. My Florida Gators dominate Arkansas and win the SEC title outright for the first time since 2014. But what did he say, Chris? Sorry.
Well, let's save that for after Punk.
Okay.
Finn, I think.
Fair enough. Let's move, finally, to the Women's Elimination Chamber. Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and Raquel Rodriguez for the WWE Championship #1 contendership. Rodriguez, backstage on SmackDown, was excited about the prospect of her and Liv Morgan running WWE as champions on both brands. Jade Cargill confronted her, as she did every other woman who was in the chamber match at the show, with the exception of Stratton. She talked some shit to Ripley, interrupted a 4-way segment with Bliss and James as well. Charlotte Flair was drowning her sorrows in 3 pints of ice cream. We're not going to talk about that on Tuesday, so let me just say she was incredible in this segment. It was her best work since joining with Bliss. They referred to Julia's ridiculous scream last week, a bit of atonement there, and it's clear a tag feud is coming out on the other side. Ripley and Io Sky also lost the women's tag team titles to the Irresistible Forces, which opened up Rhea as a much stronger possibility to win the chamber, like what happened with Bianca Belair literally last year. We will cover the women's tag team title match on Tuesday. Let's talk about the chamber. James opened by dodging Stratton's handspring back elbow, with Tiffy driving herself into a pod window. Kiana then charged and speared Asuka in her own pod when the first buzzer went off. Asuka completely dominated the neophytes until Bliss entered second. James put Stratton into a window with a seesaw as Ripley wrecked shop. Bliss twice escaped Riptide, the second time climbing the side of the cage so she could land Twisted Bliss into a waiting pile of women. Bliss caught James for Sister Abigail, but when she paused to point at the WrestleMania sign like an absolute moron, Asuka misted her in the face and Kiana rolled her up for an elimination. What a dummy. There was unfortunately zero reaction to Rodriguez entering, but once she started wrecking people, the crowd came around. Raquel bounced Rhea into the cage, then powerbombed her over the top rope inside. Then she did a fall-away slam of Asuka over the top rope inside and power slammed Kiana into and through a pod.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
A Tahana bomb on Asuka into James then led to a double stack elimination. Stratton hit a double handspring cutter, only to take a twirling world's strongest slam from Rodriguez. Then Raquel hung Rhea upside down with her legs trapped in the chains, only to take a hurricanrana into the ring from Tiffy. Rodriguez hit her corkscrew elbow, only to take a cannonball off the ropes from Ripley, who flew from the top of the pod. Stratton landed a moonsault coming back to eliminate Raquel, which actually got boos. That's how well Rodriguez did in this match. They had no response to her when she came in, and then they booed her elimination. That left 2 extreme options as the winner. Rhea ate a cartwheel Alabama slam. Tiffy missed a swanton bomb, took an electric chair facebuster. Then Stratton landed the swanton and hit a rolling senton, but Ripley pushed her off the top rope into a pod and hit Riptide in the middle of the ring to advance to WrestleMania. This was a real good match that was on its way to being great, but it never reached that level, mostly due to runtime and talent. There were 3 notable spots, one actually inventive. Rodriguez was the clear MVP, booked like an absolute hoss, not only with some of the moves she executed, particularly the running power slam through the pod, but how she was put over with the double elimination in the middle. That might have been the first pinfall of its kind since Roman Reigns stacked Edge and Daniel Bryan. It cut down the runtime because there were 2 eliminations at once. This only went 24 minutes for a chamber match. That is short, especially on what was already a 4-match card. Rhea and Tiffy were solid as the final 2, but the bout ended just a few minutes after they started going head-to-head. With so much time saved from the double elimination, why were there no false finishes? Stratton was a long-running world champion in 2025. Why did she and Ripley not put on a 6 or 7 minute match as the final 2 that both made Tiffy look strong and solidified Rhea as someone who deserved the title opportunity because she's been wrestling in tag teams for months and just lost on Friday night. I really struggled to make sense of that. And that was before the finish to the men's match that really had no extended finishing sequence. If you're not going to do it for the men, then you absolutely should be doing it for the women. Bliss was a terrible choice to be involved here. Her elimination was ridiculously dumb for her as a character. If she was a heel, it would have worked, but she's a babyface. James was okay, didn't add anything. Stratton, rough again in parts, but she also bumped her ass off in this match. I know people need to take falls, but the roster is way too strong to have them in this match not doing anything notable when there's bigger stars who could have been involved. This was the shortest chamber match since 2023, but to provide context, both chamber matches in 2022 were 15 minutes. So I'm not sitting here suggesting that it was insultingly short. It was just shorter than it should have been, considering it was a 4-match card. Why not go longer and achieve more with these women? 3.75 stars B+. I'm borderline to a B. Ripley was the right call. She was the only one who could have successfully built a marquee match with Jade. Though I will tell you, once this was over, I was looking at Rodriguez and I said, man, if they did a 3-way big meaty women slap and meet, that would probably be off the chain.
Well, first off, let's give some big meaty men to this match, which had a lot of big, powerful women in the match, other than Alexa Bliss, basically.
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
There's a lot of beef out here.
With both of these chamber matches, the entrances were way too long. We don't need every single 1 and 2 starter going to every single person in the pod.
Mm-hmm.
The entrances took, I swear to God, took
They
10
did.
to 20 minutes.
They took almost as long as the matches. Yeah.
Yeah. Rhea going up to Alexa's pod and putting her arms up and Alexa doing it at the exact same time. I'm going to call a hey now.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
Now, normally I'd ring the bell here and do a Hey Now Championship. I don't even know what you're talking about. So we're going to put a pin
That's
in
the
that.
thing.
Hold on. We're going to put a pin in that. And we're going to do our WWE Elimination Chamber second look at the start of Tuesday's show. And at that point, we will hold a Hey Now Championship match.
Okay. It's the thing. It's not a look. It's more of a movement and vibe. So it may not qualify. We can figure it out on Tuesday, but
you call out, call it out. That means the match is happening. I doubt she'll win.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And the other thing, they've never explained how the order for a chamber match is done, right? Like for all the drama around a Rumble, they've made the point tonight that you're in a really difficult position if you start the chamber and the person who comes out 5th wins the most chambers. But we never have any like kayfabe drama about how that is decided. It just happens on the day of the show. I feel like there's a missed opportunity.
The 4 entrants from the pod historically is randomized. That's why the light goes around, it lands on someone, they go in. But what they should be explaining is how the first 2 people get chosen.
Right.
The ones who start the match.
You don't want to start that match. But they've just never kind of put anything around it. So I don't know. I thought from like bell to bell, this match was better and more enjoyable than the men. The men just had the better finish. The Raquel power slam of Kiana through the pod, probably the best spot of both chamber matches. And I will say that is the one spot in a chamber match that will always pop.
Oh yeah.
When you just Goldberg spearing Jericho through it.
You
know,
defenestrate someone. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's literally like it's got the sound, it's got the look. It works every time. Frankly, they should do one of those in almost every chamber match because it's the only thing that like consistently works. But that was a great spot by Raquel. Glad she got to show out and look good. And yeah, I don't remember who you picked. I picked Rhea going in thinking she would fight for 2 titles at Mania. Clearly it'll just be 1 now, but I did get that one.
Yeah, I picked Rodriguez coming in because I assumed they were going to be champions, tag team champions going into WrestleMania. And I just didn't see them fighting 2 matches when you can put someone else in that spot. Now with Bianca Belair last year, she and Naomi lost the tag team titles on Raw 5 days before Elimination Chamber. So it made sense that she would then go and win Chamber and move on to a title match at WrestleMania. Plus, obviously, they were doing the storyline with Io Sky and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
This year, if Ripley and Sky had lost the titles on Raw rather than SmackDown, that would have happened before we taped our Ultimate Preview, at which point I would have picked Rhea, but I don't have the luxury of doing that. I picked Raquel, and I feel justified in that Raquel was the MVP of the match. So like we both, you got it right in terms of the actual winner, but in terms of the people that were featured here, it was those two heads and shoulders above everyone else involved.
And Rhea Jade, like, it just makes sense when they had them stare down each other a week ago or whatever, and you realized there isn't really anybody who fits for Jade. Rhea Jade makes a lot of sense. And I'm interested in it. And it's two badass women who look incredible, two big, meaty women slapping meat. And I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
Well, not tonight, either April 18th or April 19th. But yes, that will be happening. And for those unaware, Rhea is the replacement for Bianca. She was supposed to fight Jade at SummerSlam, and then they moved that match to WrestleMania, but Belair never got cleared. She recently underwent her third finger and knuckle surgery. I'm seriously concerned, Chris. This is my one other item coming out of this. Maybe we spend more time talking about it on Tuesday, our WWE episode, our normal weekly show. But I'm seriously concerned that Io is about to get used as fodder. Like, Jade attacks her, knocks her out. Rhea's really angry about that and fights for Io's honor just as much as she does fighting Jade for the title. And then Io's left off WrestleMania. I know that's pessimistic. I get it. There are matches that Io can have on the show. Io and Asuka one-on-one, given their feud for most of the last 6-7 months, makes all the sense in the world. Io and Julia, because of what was happening on SmackDown, that actually works too for the United States Championship. So Io should have a spot on this show. I just have a real bad feeling that given the relationship with Rhea and Io, they're going to knock Sky out, not put her on the card, and it's going to be to further the animus between Ripley and Cargill.
I don't know. We know Triple H loves Io Sky, and he's going to do whatever it takes to. He put her in the triple threat and had her win.
She's also in the WrestleMania commercial. She's in the women's commercial, just to be fair.
Yeah. I maybe early on it happens and she comes back later or something. I would be stunned if Io's not on the card.
Fingers crossed. I truly hope you're right. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, and that's okay. Now, we do have 2 more matches from WWE Elimination Chamber to cover, but I do need to remind you that whether it's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, or premium live events on Netflix, we are all in with NordVPN. It is easy to set up and a drastically better viewing experience each night. You get the same high-quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom, open Netflix, and watch the program. That is going to be crucial for WrestleMania 42 coming up, and it was great for Vintage and I, both of us, here for WWE Elimination Chamber. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance, protect your private data, and one account can be used on 10 different devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there is no risk, nor does a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let's move to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. CM Punk defending against Finn Balor. Commentary told us Judgment Day was in the building, but Balor wanted to be out on his own. It would have been nice if he just said as much himself. They had a 2-hour countdown show in which he could have said it. Now, to be fair, there was a tremendous interview with Finn on that show that you should watch if you missed it. Punk got a full Chicago Bulls introduction, Sirius by Alan Parsons Project, for those wondering, before Cult of Personality, and the crowd was red hot for him. Punk also wore Bulls-colored gear. Phenomenal start, other than us not getting Balor's complete theme.
As a Detroit Pistons fan, I got to say I did not like it. Bad boys forever.
Well, yeah, look, as a New York Knicks fan, having heard that for the better part of a decade, I didn't love it either, but it was cool for CM Punk. Slow building first 10 minutes, which told me I thought the match was going to get a lot of time. Balor took a tope suicide into the announce table. Punk followed with a flying clothesline inside. Balor countered go to sleep twice into a sling blade and a small package. Punk sold a rib injury from all of the early work. Punk avoided coup de grace, hitting a running knee and a flying elbow drop while bleeding heavily from his mouth. Balor twice blocked a sharpshooter, so Punk put an Anaconda Vice, but Balor escaped with a pinning combination and a dozen hammer elbows. He followed with coup de grace for a false finish, looking down the ramp briefly before turning back. Punk countered Balor and landed GTS, but the challenger immediately fell out of the ring. Balor caught him charging with a ring slide sling blade, following with a long-running shotgun dropkick through the barricade. Balor escaped GTS, hitting another sling blade and a shotgun dropkick, but Punk got a single leg up to counter coup de grace, catching and countering in genius fashion into, let's call it, most of a sharpshooter. Hell of a spot. And then Punk just stomped Balor a bunch of times, dragged him upwards into a GTS, and retained the title. Balor extended a hand after the bell. They spoke briefly, exchanged some words, and then Balor went on his way. This was a great match with a weak as shit finish. Considering half the bout was spent building the rib injury, it did not go as long as I came to expect. It went 20 minutes. If you're spending 10 minutes with slow plotting mat work, you got to go 30, at least 25. It was nevertheless going perfectly in the latter stages until that last GTS. Balor 100% should have kicked out of that move, leading to either a third GTS or an additional sequence ended by that move. It just felt like such a sudden stoppage, even if the idea was that Balor was exhausted, having overcome the sharpshooter, the earlier GTS, and the second GTS. He hit too many moves after that first GTS for it to still be bothering him. But this was a classic-style wrestling match. It was worked to perfection by both guys. The extremely slow start, it made it tough for the crowd to kind of regain its energy over the duration. And really, they should have rethought how this match was paced. Somewhat surprised there was no Judgment Day involvement. I figure they're going to give Balor shit on Monday. That's going to cause the breakup to begin. 4.25 stars, A. It was brought down by the finish, but an A match either way. Match of the night. Fantastic stuff.
I mean, it was good. It was fine. There was just never a moment that the finish we all expected was in doubt, which was the problem with the whole story coming in. The only story they could tell was, is Finn going to ruin the main event of WrestleMania? Like, the guys wrestled it well. It could have gone longer, but could you have given Finn some more hope spots? I mean, he hits a coup de grace that Punk kicks out of, but you know, it was only gonna go as high as it could, and it did, and it was fine. I don't know if I'd give it an A, but I don't know if they could have gotten to an A just by the nature of what it was. So good, fine, fun. What you expected. Honestly, it was less than what I expected. I was thinking we were going to get some Judgment Day and shenanigans, and no, they just wrestled the match and Punk just beat them.
You know what? Right. I appreciated not getting shenanigans because of what happened in the main event. It would have been way too much to get both of those back to back.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I get it. To me, it limits how interesting it was.
I just wanted Balor to get one legitimate false finish kick out. If they had done that...
Well, he did. He got one. He got the coup de grace.
No. I'm saying Balor to kick out of a move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He rolled out of the ring on the first GTS. It would have really built him up for him to kick out of a GTS.
Make it harder for Punk to put Finn away.
Exactly.
Like, Punk has to dig really,
a little bit more drama at the end
to do it, and he didn't have to.
Yeah, I just felt there wasn't enough drama at the end of the match. That's the one thing that was missing. But, you know, it was extremely well wrestled otherwise. Did you want to point out what happened with Punk and Reigns on the post show? Because I totally missed it.
So Roman tweets after the match. Not sure who was more tired, the crowd or the champ. I'll see you in WrestleMania or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so Punk kind of talked about how great Chicago is, fighting champion. He's here every week. Gonna call him Rusty Reigns at WrestleMania because Roman never wrestles.
Right, it doesn't work.
That was pretty much that. It was fine. It was good stuff. It was a follow-up of what he said on Raw. And, you know, Punk did as best he could to keep selling that as a one-man band without Roman in town. But Roman's coming back now, and so it's gonna heat up again.
I was gonna say I'd have to watch it. It sounds like it was more energy than material, and probably because it was improv. He didn't think about it, and he was just doing it live. So that's okay. Intercontinental.
I did think it was interesting that Roman tweeted, "Not sure who looks more tired, the champ or the crowd," because that second part is I don't know if it's a heel thing to say, but it was an interesting thing for a WWE wrestler to tweet that the crowd is not interested, you know. And when Cole said it on the show, he didn't include that first part about what Roman said about the crowd. But then on the post show, they did show the whole thing.
I thought that was interesting, but you have to remember part of Reigns' gimmick is he's the needle mover. The fans only care about him, acknowledge him. So it actually fits with his character, even if
it does.
It did kind of shit on the show. But,
and what he said on McAfee before about
right, exactly.
creative. Yeah, it does. It is consistent.
Moving to the Intercontinental Championship, Becky Lynch defending against AJ Lee. This was a surprise in the second spot on the show. Before the bell, the women went back to back, but it wasn't a surprise after the bell. Jessica Carr was the referee, which kind of gave you an inkling of what was going to happen here. AJ hit a Bulldog Tornado DDT and Shining Wizard, finally flashing after an extremely slow start. Becky exposed the turnbuckle, falling with a superplex and an armbar. As Carr started fixing the turnbuckle, Lynch ran Lee into her, then accidentally clocked Jessica with a roundhouse kick. AJ locked in Black Widow with Becky tapping, but Jessica missed it while selling, which got the crowd hot for the first time. They missed a flying something into a steel chair, so Becky hit a DDT on AJ into it, and followed with the manhandle slam for a kick-out false finish. Lynch was stunned. I shook my head that this woman who hasn't wrestled in 10 years took a DDT into a chair and then a finisher and kicked out. Carr then physically prevented Lynch from running Lee into the exposed turnbuckle. How blatantly corrupt can a referee be? Holy cow. Carr is clearly on the take. Becky took a header into the turnbuckle after they botched a sequence, and then AJ locked in Black Widow again, tapping out Becky to win the title. Well, this was a match that happened. Zero issues with the booking and pacing. It was put together in a way that made sense of Lynch's loss. She can blame Jessica and the exposed turnbuckle. She'll claim was unfair, even though she's the one who exposed it. And they even fooled us into believing Lynch would retain after that initial submission was missed. But the wrestling was relatively poor on AJ's part. Becky did her best to carry, and you know what? She actually achieved that in many parts. The one area I did not like was the kick out, like I said, of the chair-assisted DDT and then Lynch's finisher. It's way too much, way too strong for someone who's been out of action as long as AJ has. There's not much else to say here. I don't want to see this match again, yet I presume we'll get it at WrestleMania with a stipulation, unless they run Becky, Jessica, and put AJ in a multi-woman match. Here's the truth.
We can't do I know we're talking about Nick Aldis, but we can't have a match with a referee.
Oh, and we absolutely can, especially because she's a real wrestler. But I'm going to say this. The idea of AJ Lee returning to the ring, it was far better than the reality of AJ Lee returning to the ring. She's been rough on promos, rougher between the ropes. She did take a step forward here. It being a storytelling match helped. I'd have received it better if there was a fifth wrestling match on the card, so we got more wrestling, and this could be storytelling. I'm at 2.25 stars and a C. Not the worst thing in the world. Not good enough to be one of 4 bouts on a card. I will accept an argument if anyone believes the moment of her winning made up for the match, because she did get an incredible response, and it was super cool that AJ won the Intercontinental Championship.
I thought the match was fine. I didn't have high expectations, not to be mean, but kind of building off of what you said about AJ's return. I think the memory of AJ Lee was a lot more vibes than reality. She was never an amazing wrestler. She was never an amazing promo. She was just good and stood out in a Divas division that was a certain way. I wasn't expecting this to be an amazing match. It was fine. Becky wrestling in a jacket was an interesting choice. I can't imagine how much she was sweating in that thing.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Interesting look.
It made me wonder if maybe she had something going on physically that she wanted to cover up. Maybe not, but it made me think. I have
no idea.
Yeah.
But I also liked Wade Barrett saying at the beginning that he had a singles match more recently than AJ. I was like, wow, that's a great way to kind of to relate to all of it. And he also made a comment in the chamber match. I thought Wade was great, by the way. He had some comments about his experience in the chamber match too. That was really insightful. I was fine with AJ doing the kick out when she did. I mean, she's going to be your new champion. Give her a big heroic thing. Like it's the kind of thing we didn't get from Finn or Punk. Like it was hard to put AJ away, and then AJ won. So that was fine. The whole point of this, not the show, but the booking of the show, the layout of the matches, it was to create the moment we got after Punk's win, which was AJ comes out with her title, Punk's got his title. They're the Chicago people. The show is based around them. They get their husband-wife championship moment in the ring, and everybody's happy, and we love it. And it is truly an incredible. I don't think full circle is the right term, but
Yeah, maybe.
CM Punk was fired. CM Punk was fired by WWE on his wedding day to AJ Lee, and the bad blood that stewed from that from a long time. And now they're all back, champions together on a show put together by Triple H. Just remarkable.
Yeah.
From that moment to now.
It's insane when you think about that. And this was almost certainly like the payoff of a promise to a degree. Like, hey, Punk, you come back, we'll main event you on WrestleMania at some point. And AJ, if you come back, we'll have you win a title in Chicago and you guys can celebrate together. Like, these were things that maybe were not written in the contract, but were conversations that were had. And hey, we're going to make it worth your while. We'll give you the moments that you really want. And, Punk is full-time. AJ is not full-time. Now, she has a multi-year contract, but this is what you kind of want to do with her. You give her this, it elevates her a little bit. And then hopefully when she continues coming back, she's putting over other women, right? Like Trish Stratus.
Yeah, she will lose the title at WrestleMania to somebody. Hopefully elevate them. Hopefully not Becky, honestly. Hopefully it's somebody else. Some other heel can take the title. And we will have had this moment, and AJ will give the rub to somebody else at Mania. Mission accomplished. It's the Intercontinental belt. I'm okay with it changing hands more often. My issues are more around the Women's World Championships, as we've talked about. Is what it is.
It probably has to be Becky taking the title, though. Because look, my issue is with her booking of late. It has been so one-sided toward two women.
I think
in AJ and Maxine Dupree, though, who come nowhere close to matching her in the ring. They're both demolishing Lynch. And it's extremely difficult for me to suspend my disbelief to that end. Even if she's a heel. She was a WrestleMania main eventer. She's tapped 3 straight times to AJ and lost like 7 matches to Maxine. It's a little ridiculous at this point.
Well, she's above this, frankly.
She's so far above.
Yeah,
this.
she's above the Intercontinental Championship too. So I don't know what you do with her at Mania. If she just drops the title back to Becky at Mania, I guess that works. But because I don't know what else you really do with Becky at this point. But Becky has been I'm the heel who's going to put the faces over for, I think, too long. And we need, but at the same time, Becky said, I think in Unreal that like this is her last contract. So I don't know. I don't really know where you go with Becky from here.
Chris, I just sent you a text message while we were taping the show. I want your live reaction.
Yes, you did.
To what you just saw.
There is CM Punk posted on Instagram a picture of him naked, wearing the World Championship around his waist and the Women's Intercontinental Championship around his chest. It reminds me, there is a similar photo like this of Seth and Becky.
Correct. That's precisely why he did it. It's great.
Yeah.
The picture's terrible, but it's great. It's a great homage to that.
It's very funny.
All right. The final segment of Elimination Chamber. The box. It was opened between the Punk match and the main event. Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce pried it open with crowbars to unveil a coffin. Inside the coffin was Danhausen, led out by a handful of dancers wearing his face paint. He had a whole thematic presentation, more detail to his gimmick than most of what WWE does for major superstars it calls up from NXT. He got a full presentation with a theme that fit him and a graphics package and like more than Jordan Grace got, as one example.
Do you want to say real quick for people who don't watch AEW, like what Danhausen is?
How do I say what he is? There's no way to say what he is. So
it's a good point.
They all danced in the ring. Danhausen handed a jar of teeth to commentary. Then shitty pyro went off on purpose. The lights went out and everyone disappeared. Fans went from reacting a little bit to confusion to booing. And I don't know if they were booing the segment in its entirety or the fact that it just ended the way it did with nothing happening. Look, I did not want to share this opinion until he debuted. I wasn't sure that he would debut at all. But Danhausen has never been for me, and he never will be. I don't get his gimmick. I don't find him funny. I don't understand why WWE would sign him. He does move merchandise, apparently, but as far as I know, he did that among independent fans, a drastically different audience than the WWE main roster. Now, it is quite possible that Silver King is proven wrong, and I truly hope that is the case for him, WWE, and most importantly, my own entertainment. There are people who love him and his gimmick. I'm just not one of them. That's all. Maybe he turns my opinion eventually. The WWE machine may have him over like Rover in a month. I've seen people compare him to a weird wrestling Conan O'Brien. I don't see that at all. I also don't see how he adds anything to this product. In terms of this segment, if you were going to do this around Halloween, okay. It might have made some sense thematically. If you were going to do this on a TV show, okay. You have plenty of time to waste. Debuting a comedy jobber character on a PLE and doing it on the road to WrestleMania in front of 19,000 fans in Chicago was asinine. It did not make a shred of sense. This came across like a wet fart. The audience didn't know him. They had no reason to know him. And this reeked of WWE signing a guy from AEW simply because the latter held him hostage and refused to release him, and also Punk is friends with him.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
If this was our Tuesday show, it would get an ugly. And that was with me expecting it to be Danhausen and knowing I wouldn't like it coming in. On a positive tip, good for this guy getting a PLE debut in front of 19,000 people in Chicago. I never would have expected WWE would do that for him, but it wasn't for me.
In all of wrestling history, it proves beneficial to be friends with the champion. We got Brutus Beefcake. You got all Hulk Hogan's buddies around for a long time. And now you got a bunch of CM Punk's buddies around. And Cody Rhodes' buddies. I'll get to that in a second. It was whatever. The idea that the box held like 10 people.
That was funny.
Was actually kind of funny.
Yeah,
that was actually
that
kind of
I did
funny.
like.
All these people were coming out of the coffin. I thought the visual was actually pretty well done. Like, it actually looked pretty good what they did. And yeah, I am mostly surprised. One, you're doing it at this time of year. Two, it's not around Halloween. You're doing it on a pay-per-view. This would have been something you debut on a TV show. I think most of the booing at the end was that it was not Chris Jericho. I still think a lot of people.
I don't think people had that. There were no signs to that end that I saw.
I think ultimately what he will be a funny, low card, mostly do stuff backstage to make jokes, like a boogeyman, like an R-Truth, and he'll potentially sell a lot of merchandise. I think people saw this guy CM Punk's friend. He sells merch. Put the WWE machine behind him, and we'll get a bunch of merch out of it, and that's it. And I think that's all it really needs to be. Did it need to be on a pay-per-view? No. Do I think he's going to go anywhere? No. But I have found him funny in bits and pieces. Like some of the stuff he did, AEW, BTE back in the day, I enjoyed. I don't know what he's been up to over the last several years, but it was what it was. But here's a fun list I put together. Former AEW people who have now come over to WWE. Jade Cargill, Ricky Saints, Penta, Ray Phoenix, Danhausen, Ethan Page, Blake Monroe, Royce Keys. There might be more I forgot. That was off the top of my head that I wrote down. That's a lot of people who in like the early days of and Cody Rhodes, if you want to count it.
Well,
and
CM Punk, then you would count also, and I wouldn't count either of them, but yeah.
Right. But Cody left AEW at the height of his powers or whatever.
Sure.
So you think about the early days of AEW and how many of those people are not there anymore and are now here of all places. It's surprising. It's interesting. More than anything, it's why it's good there are two companies. Because if AEW did not exist, Danhausen may not even be in wrestling anymore. You know, AEW gave him a bigger platform. Now he makes it to WWE. You can have guys change companies. It's so much better, the depth of talent throughout all of pro wrestling, than it was in the mid-2010s. And for all the WWE, every time there's people cut, should they go to AEW? Should they come here? This or that. For all the fantasy booking, trading rosters that people do, it's ultimately a good thing to see all these AEW people who have come over to WWE, because they were elevated for the most part in AEW, and that got them on a quicker, different path now than to WWE. Who for a while there, remember in the early 2020s, WWE was like, we don't want independent wrestlers anymore. We're just going all in on college students. Now they're back to like finding a middle ground of that.
Your timeline's a little bit off there with what you're talking about, but
well, no. But it's just, I think it's Danhausen being another AEW person to come over. I think it's just
look,
an example of it's good that this.
I don't think again, maybe it's bias or whatever, but I don't think Danhausen is an example of anything. I do agree that he may not have been on WWE's radar.
I'm saying,
let me finish what I'm saying. I do agree that he may not have been on WWE's radar if he was not in AEW. But I don't think Danhausen being in WWE is an example of like AEW being a good thing for wrestling. It's a good thing for Danhausen because he's got a contract and he's getting paid, and it's a good thing for wrestlers in totality because there's more people out there getting paid bigger dollars. But what AEW largely did, and I don't want to spend more time on this because it's late and I'm exhausted, but what they did was they took everything that was left over, basically, is the way I look at it. There was a lot of talent on the independents that wasn't really getting noticed because the only real option was WWE, and TNA existed, but it wasn't really doing much of anything. And if anyone ever did pop off from TNA, then WWE would scoop them up and so on. So AEW, they figured out a way to get the best of the rest, pretty much every major name from New Japan, and they created a promotion that has done exceedingly well. There's no question about that. There are many names that you listed that I believe would have been in WWE either way. There are some that would not have been. The point that you're making at large, though, is the existence of AEW is good for wrestling, undoubtedly. No question about that. I'm just not going to sit and use Danhausen as an example of that. This is good for Danhausen. That's pretty much it.
Well, it's good for the wrestlers, is what I'm saying. Because if AEW doesn't exist, he probably doesn't. He may not survive in independent wrestling. I don't know.
No, I mean, he was a gimmick over there, making good money, and he sells a shitload of merch. So, look, AEW definitely gave him a platform. And I will agree with something you said earlier that individual segments he did in AEW would occasionally make me laugh, but as a whole, I'm not going to play the drop again. I don't get it. It's not for me. I understand Mr. Iguana, so you can't say the Silver King doesn't, like to have fun. I get Santino Marella and R-Truth and all these guys and girls, Harley Cameron, etc.
That's
but
it.
Danhausen is not it as far as Silver King is concerned, especially not to debut at a PLE with 20,000 people in attendance on the road to WrestleMania with 6-7 weeks until the biggest show of the year.
Agreed.
It's unfathomable to me that they did this. So we'll put a pin in it. We'll see what happens on Raw or SmackDown. I presume it'll be on Raw because that's where Punk is and they want to follow up on it. Let's get to our post-show grades here for WWE Elimination Chamber. Before we discuss our post-show grades, let's talk about our pre-show grades. Silver King came in expecting a 90 out of 100, an A-. Vintage, I believe your number was 88 out of 100. Is that right?
Yep.
B+. And our listeners are getting overheads. They voted in our pre-show poll at Getting Overcast on Twitter. 22% in the A range, 57% B+ to B, 20% B- to C+, 1% C or lower. I was surprised to see so many in the B- to C+ zone. But that averaged out to an 88.4, a B+, so they were exactly aligned with you, and 2 points below the Silver King. As always, Chris, when we give our post-show grades here at Getting Over, you get the opportunity to go first. What was your final grade for WWE Elimination Chamber?
Going to start this off with some math, something you like to do. We had 4 winners of the matches tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the average age of those 4 winners?
Ooh, so we are talking Randy Orton. We're talking Rhea Ripley, who's young. She's like 28, I want to say. AJ Lee, who's certainly older, and CM Punk. I'm trying to do quick math here. So 48, 28, that averages out to 38. Then you have, what are the other two I said? I forget. CM Punk, who's probably around there. I'd say the average age of the winners on this show is something like 43 years old.
Not quite. 39.7.
Oh, 40.
Punk is actually older.
You know what, man?
Punk
For head math at 1 a.m.,
yeah,
I'm taking that. That's pretty close, but okay.
So,
but average age 40
Rhea
is 20. Yeah,
Rhea at 29 was the youngest by 9 years.
Yeah, it's a problem.
this show, there was no great wrestling. There were no great, incredible spots. There were stakes with 2 number 1 contenders and 1 title change. But the only relatively surprising thing to happen was Randy Orton, of all things. 4-match card. I'm giving this a B, and I'm real close to giving it a B-. I'm going to go 84 because this might be the most boring show we've had in a long time. Now, it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine. There were important things that happened. But man, it just wasn't great. I'll give it 84.
Completely agree with you. Pretty much everything that you said. I didn't think about the age of the winners quotient, and I'm okay with that number because it's the road to WrestleMania. They were determining number 1 contenders. There was a reason those people won those matches, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know that I would have changed any of them. So it was the right people winning the right matches.
In the chambers, you had the young people eliminated pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think
Javon Evans, the first person out. Kiana James, first or second?
No, second.
Out.
Bliss was the first one out.
Yeah.
I was okay with Javon going out first, but Trick should have been in that match longer. I mean, he did not need to go before LA Knight, especially given the way that transpired.
I don't think any of those fresher faces in the chamber were elevated very much.
They were not. None of them
performances.
Yeah, none of them were. Raquel Rodriguez she's not young, quote unquote, but she was the freshest. She was someone who was elevated again into a main event role based on her performance. She got the most out of those 2 matches out of anyone, is what I would say. And that's positive. That's not negative. But the younger talent that did not. And that's unfortunate. But I completely agree with what you're saying. I found myself bored for large portions of this show. I liked the Punk Balor match a lot more than you did. And the final 5 minutes of the men's match, which is how they sent us home, bleeding into the post show with Aldis and McIntyre and all that. That was the best part of the entire program. And there is something to be said. And you say this about an NFL game also. You can have a boring 3.5 quarters, but if the final 5 minutes, if there's 3 touchdowns, you come away, holy crap, that was a great game. Now, I'm not going to allow that to skew my perception of this show. But my point is that those final 5 minutes were the most important 5 minutes on the entire show, and they were the best part of the entire show. So that's hugely positive. Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. It's a B show. I'm just 1 point higher, 85 out of 100. I was firmly at a B-, borderline C+ before the final 5 minutes of Chamber, because before that happened, I thought I knew what was going to happen. You know, Cody's going to win. I thought the fans would actually boo because that's how they were treating him, especially if he beat Orton as the final 2. And that final match was careening off a cliff. Everything that happened with Rollins and Orton and McIntyre, it just completely saved it and the show. So it's a B. I'm severely disappointed in this Elimination Chamber, but at the same time, because it was only 4 matches, this never would have gone beyond a 90. Like, a 90 was the ceiling, and we're talking about it at an 85 and 84. So, like, not the end of the world, but this was, it was ridiculous for this to be a 4-match show. There's so much happening on Raw and SmackDown. There should have been 5 or 6 matches, especially because the chamber matches were not long. If the chamber matches are going to be 35, 40 minutes each, and you give us 4 matches, okay. The first one was, I said, 24. I don't have the time on the second one. I'd guess it was close to that, pretty similar. That's 20 extra minutes that could have been spent on an additional match. So that was my larger frustration. And before I get to your follow-up comments, Chris, our votes on Twitter at Getting Overcast are Getting Overheads. They chimed in 16% A. I took away A+ as an option because there was no way this was an A+ show. 16% A, 34% A- to B+, 39% B to B-, 11% C+ or lower. That averaged out to an 87.3, a B+. I believe that to be high, personally. Is it the end of the world? You know, no, it's decently close to where you and I are. At least everyone agreed that this was not an A or A- show.
Yeah, I mean, I had B+ coming. I'm with you. Like, it's B-, maybe C+ until the end of the chamber match and the post show that had a lot of good energy. Just, they think chamber can be like Rumble, and it's just not. You can put the big names in it. You can put number 1 contenderships on it. they're just not going to be. You can't anchor shows around it and make them great. I think we felt the same about last year's Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whatever show, but it had a crazy finish, and so we remember that. And like, I don't know if again Chamber as the final show before Mania, I still don't like it. It feels like a lazy way to create some number one contenders, and on top of that, you're anchoring them around the whole show.
Yep.
And it's just not great.
Yeah.
I think there's just very, very much limitations to it. That said, we are now past it. Roman Reigns is coming back. We are fully on to WrestleMania, and I'm excited for it. Think it's going to be good. A lot of work to do, but a lot of time to do it.
You did a good job wrapping up the segment, but I do want to double back on the thing that you just said really quick. It's extremely lazy to do the number one contenderships in Elimination Chamber. We've been talking about this on the podcast, not just for the last couple of months. We've been talking about it since the summer, because what WWE has now done is they have 4 shows that determine 2 number one contenders on each show. They have the Royal Rumble, 2 for WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, 2 for WrestleMania, King and Queen of the Ring, 2 for SummerSlam, and then Money in the Bank, which obviously gives you 2 briefcase holders, which are de facto number one contenders. So 4 of your 12 PLEs a year, the main matches are determining number one contenders, and there's no flexibility. Now, you can have some flexibility in the Chamber. It's the one show where you can switch it up. You want to do 1 contendership and 1 title on the line. You want to put 2 titles on the line. You want to mix it up and do a tag team chamber or a mid-card chamber or whatever the case. You have the ability to do that. All the other matches, you pretty much can't change the way you're booking them. These 2 you can. The men's match, now I don't know how it would have gone, and we look at this with 2020 vision, or 2020 hindsight, I guess is the proper term, but I said it beforehand too. It should have been Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship in Chamber. It would have made that better and everything that came out of it even better. He could have retained. He could have gone to WrestleMania, and the field would be wide open for potential challengers. But they gotta give us some variety and diversity on this show.
Especially in hindsight, when they decided to just do Drew Cody next Friday.
Right.
Like, why not make this the title match and then have shenanigans happen and make your stuff up from there? I think adding the Drew Cody match immediately after Randy earned his number one contendership over Cody kind of devalued everything that just happened. Not only did Cody not win the Rumble and not win the Chamber, he just got a title shot anyway. Like, what?
True,
like,
but he did get directly screwed by this guy on 2 different occasions, though.
Then have him win his way into the match or something.
Well, maybe he
give
will.
him the title
Well,
match.
okay, he got this title match, but if we presume he doesn't win on Friday, and we'll talk more about this on Tuesday, we don't need to spend more time. But if we presume he doesn't win on Tuesday, doesn't win on Friday, then he should have to win his way into that match, one would think.
If he loses again, he's in the Sammy boat that you say that he shouldn't be able to win his way in.
Well, I'm assuming he gets screwed again, is what I'm saying. He'd have to get screwed a third time, pretty much.
So it was weird to like. That's the other thing. Like, they were even saying afterward, and Triple H was saying this to Jackie Redmond on the post show. He's like, Cody, doesn't really have a path to Mania. Is kind of in a weird spot right now. And all I'm thinking is, what are you talking about? He has a world championship.
No. He said he otherwise would, is what he was saying.
Okay, it was a weird. Yeah, it was a weird. He went on.
He was saying if Cody doesn't win this match, he doesn't have a path to WrestleMania. That's what he was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I misheard that then, but it's it was a hot finish. It just didn't feel like a pay-per-view finish. The whole show didn't feel as big. So
you know what? The show, despite there being 2 Elimination Chamber matches, it felt like a Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, that's what it did.
Especially when you consider the 2 title matches that existed on it. Those were Saturday night's main event title matches. And the Chambers, neither of them, you got to have one that's incredible. If you have one that's incredible, the other can be a B match with an important finish, and then it works. It's fine. But both of them were mediocre, different levels of mediocre. And you can't do that. Like, not when you're building to WrestleMania, not when you're trying to make this a tentpole show. When you had it in a stadium last year, you packed 19,000 people in the United Center. Credit to WWE for that, by the way. People were saying ticket sales are going terrible. They were at like 16,000 last week, and they sold SRO tickets, standing room only. They outsold the first dance that AEW did, CM Punk's return, which they claimed was a sellout at 13,000. Then they found 2,000 more seats. It was like 15 and change. The Forbidden Door show with AEW and New Japan was held in the same venue. I think they did like 17 and change. Called that a sellout also. WWE just did 19. And even if they exaggerated a little bit, they were over 18. So they sold out this venue for a 4-match card on the road to WrestleMania. It should have been better. You have to do better for important shows like that. If you want Backlash to be disappointing, like, okay, like shit happens. Elimination Chamber and Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank and WrestleMania and SummerSlam, those are the shows that can't be disappointing.
That was one other thing Punk did say on the post-show. Something about the gate or the attendance or something that's on him, and Roman doesn't get that. He gets credit
It's
for
true.
his number one.
They blew it out of the water.
A little gate trash talking too.
All right, folks. Well, look, that wraps up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We did go a bit long, but I felt it was a comprehensive breakdown, which is what we always try to provide you right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast of the latest WWE Premium Live event, Elimination Chamber, the final one before WWE WrestleMania 42 in the middle of April. On the way out, let me first remind you that we will be back on Tuesday talking all things WWE. And then on Thursday, we'll have our NXT and AEW show. You do not want to miss any of that content. And you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button if you happen to be a first-time listener to the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. But on the way out, allow me to remind you here at Getting Over.
It's all about the five.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating. On Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. We will read those this coming Tuesday on our WWE episode, which is also an Elimination Chamber second look. So send in those questions, send in those comments. You also get to vote in pre and post show polls surrounding Premium Live events, just like you did here Saturday night for Elimination Chamber. Let me also remind all of you that Getting Over has its own Slack channel. There was discussion throughout Elimination Chamber, and there is conversation during WWE TV shows, AEW TV shows, and just throughout the entire week, everyone talking professional wrestling. You can find the link to our Slack channel in our link tree, the link that is in our social media profiles. So again, hit up Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky, click the link, join our Slack. That would be awesome. And you can also find us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You can listen to the program and you can watch full-length video interviews as well. So again, one last time across the board, find us on social media at Getting Overcast. All right, that is it for the WWE Elimination Chamber Instant Analysis Edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.